Hello, welcome to this week's video. So a subject that I've been dealing a lot with in clinic is adrenal glands and the liver and how it affects our hormones and honestly our whole body. So I wanted to do a video on this because this is something that changed my life and information that I wish I knew some of this stuff when I was in my 20s, because I definitely could have used it and saved myself a lot of hormonal problems. Very grateful that they are all treated now, but there is some key things. So let's have a little chat. So what is the adrenal glands? So they are very important glands. They're quite small. They sit on top of our kidneys and our lower back. And as a woman now in her 40s, I know that if I don't look after those glands and keep them super healthy, when I stop menstruating and I hit menopause, which just means my menstrues will pause, my ovaries are going to say, we've served you super well, I'm going to hand the ball over to your adrenal glands. And my adrenal glands are going to be my primary producers of my progesterone. And progesterone is not only my anti-anxiety happy hormone, she's also important for maintaining my strong bones and many important functions of my body. So I want her to be kept very well looked after, especially with my history where I actually did not produce her through a lot of my teens, 20s, and even into my 30s due to hormonal imbalances that, praise God, is all fixed now. However, these adrenal glands make predominantly hormones right now, like adrenaline, that thing that makes you like run really fast, or sometimes can be producing too much of it and you can feel kind of anxiety and so forth, that high stress, inflammation in the body if it's out of whack. Cortisol, stress hormone, can be fantastic to get you up in the morning, but if your brain is telling you to produce too much of it, this can be circulating a lot in the bloodstream. And now the liver is your largest internal filter. So a lot of us take our car to get service once a year at least. And we kind of know if we don't invest in that service, our car isn't going to keep performing for us. And eventually it's going to get really expensive because the motor's going to blow up. So most of us don't realize that our liver is constantly filtering not just the toxins we ingest through what we eat and drink, it's also filtering environmental toxins that we're being exposed to from birth. And even some research is very interesting that we can inherit it through our mother. So when we're in the womb, the toxins she was exposed to can definitely be passed on to us. So it's not always like, sometimes clients say to me, Kat, but I've given up caffeine, I've given up alcohol, why is my liver, why are my hormones struggling, why am I getting these intense symptoms? Well, because it's a filter and we all have a history. So even myself, now I know how to support or limit my environmental toxins and what I eat and drink, but I still have a past. And what the filter does is there's one road in and there's one road out. So often it can, if it's not getting some boosting help at least once a year and being intelligent with how you're looking after your body, yeah, it can be struggling a little bit and we don't realize. But isn't it great that our body gives us symptoms? They're free markers. So what a lot of lifestyle coaches tell me they struggle with, and I feel pretty blessed, my clients are very good at this, a lot of them are anyway, is reading their body. So I like to teach you why is your body getting hot flashes? Why are you getting very much premenstrual tension the week before your period? Why are you getting sharp pain in your lower back? Why? Because there's always a cause. And if you go after the cause, you can fix the solution. So our adrenal glands make a lot of our fight or flight hormones, predominantly adrenaline, but there is many more. And it also makes these amazing ability to have a constant communication feedback between our brain and the glands. So that's why sometimes we think it's no big deal, I just have one coffee a day, but caffeine is liquid adrenaline, and then the body is obviously going to have to, the liver is going to have to deal with that. So if there is already wear and tear, so to speak, and we haven't been servicing that liver, can you see when, for example, from a hormonal point of view, if you are going into that last week of your cycle where the hormone progesterone hopefully is being made at ovulation, hopefully she keeps being made for a few days. Now both estrogen and progesterone is going to be going down, and where they're going to the liver to be broken down and then removed through the bowel. But if the liver isn't working very well, she's going to get a bit angry, and she's going to tell you in inflammation and symptoms, and there's lots of symptoms that can be associated. So I mean, even we're spring right now and people's hay fevers are popping, but often I was talking with a client last night, like she used to get intense hay fever symptoms and hated spring. The last 2 seasons she hasn't had any symptoms since we have put her on support for her liver. Isn't that great? So these organs, if you unload their burden, you can really make other symptoms clear up, and it can be shocking. So let's talk more about the burdens of the liver. So I think people get the loading ones, right? So that's often sugar, processed food, seed oils, caffeine, alcohol, like very commonly known, but there's also environmental ones. So plastic's a big one. I see this a lot when I test people's hormones. I see a very elevation in their, it's called ZO, which means man-made estrogen. And the liver struggles to break down plastic because it's such a new problem historically. So the organ's like, I don't know how to do this. So I often have to give out specific support where I put a powder in their smoothie called calcium deglutarate, and I dose it depending on the symptom. But first I need to make sure the bowels are moving, and they've got a really high plant-based fiber diet. So I like 3 tablespoons of flaxseed in their diet. Why would I do that? Because it's acting as, first it's omega-3, so it's anti-inflammatory, but it really acts as like a nice sort of sponge to help move everything along. What does plants predominantly do when they're in their whole form and you're eating them, like seeds and beautiful vegetables and kind of legumes and diversity of these things? I say try for seven different plant fibers in a meal, and watch how much your bugs and your microbiome loves them, because you're eating that for your bacteria, and that actually is also acting as a sponge to help absorb the plastics and take it out through the bowel movement. But if the bowels aren't moving, we can't really go up to the liver. So let's just assume you've got your bowels moving, and then we're going to go up and assist the liver. And something I really like is using some bitter herbs. Think sweet to the lips, bitter to the liver. Bitter to the lips, sweet to the liver. So usually bitter herbs like dandelion, milk thistle, berberine, these are such wonderful herbs because they really allow that liver to kind of cleanse and boost her function. So something I would often prescribe is a blend called Lipogen, because it's got all those bitter herbs and it has some hyaluronic acid as well, just to assist in the stomach doing her job, which is vital. And in a lot of my clients, I'll put you on a hot cacao. So I'll swap out your caffeine habit or create a new habit with this hot cacao, because it's got the protein, and when you're cleaning the liver, you really need those amino acids to bind to the toxins to help remove them as well. And that's why thermophase detox can be added to your hot cacao or your smoothie. And this is great because it's also got some organic non-GMO pea protein with more herbs and vitamins and minerals. And something I need to touch on is that the liver, when you're cleaning it, you really want to have a mineral rich, whole food, plant-based diet, because the fiber in the plants is going to act as a sponge. It's going to feed the bugs, and then the bitter herbs is helping the liver to release. And I really like this to do at least in spring or once a year. Think of it as your car servicing time. And then I also try to start looking at my lifestyle to see where I can limit. I very much like essential oils, but I like not synthetic ones. I like medical grade ones. So a brand I use in the clinic is doTERRA. Oh, these are so nice. So how can you use essential oils? Well, I use the body program, so they need a little bit of fat. So I often might put a drop or 4 drops. For example, this morning I put rosemary on, or I'll choose peppermint, and I'll use them on key areas of the body to improve lymphatic flow, function, amazing stuff. But I also use them in cleaning, and a little bit goes a long way. I use them for my hair treatment. A lot of you guys know I had a lot of problems with hair growth, and that has been huge change for me. And On Guard is very popular because it is so good for the immune system, but it's a lovely cleaning product. So like 1 little drop in a bucket of water will clean all the floors, and it'll also smell incredible. And you can swap out your hand sanitizers, which are just quite, they're killing all the bacteria, which is also your good bugs. So you could use like a drop of essential oil as well, like as a hand sanitizer. There's so many ways to use them, but essential oils are a wonderful way to start cleaning out some of the toxins. But think of even how you wash your clothes, maybe looking at bicarb soda and vinegar and these kind of things to reduce that toxic load for the liver. The adrenals love herbs, love them. So when someone is in quite a lot of symptoms with their hormonal imbalance, I often will support the adrenals before I'm going to start asking them to remove loaders. Why would I do that? Well, it's very hard to remove a loader when you feel terrible, when you have low energy, or you're living on adrenaline and you just feel so busy and you can't keep up to speed. So you're using those loaders to function. A lot of people use caffeine to wake them up and give them a buzz, and then they use alcohol to put them to sleep, and it's a vicious cycle. But they don't realize that their dopamine is actually, it's cheap dopamine. So they're getting a quick high, but then they're getting a corresponding dump, and they're actually losing energy because they're borrowing from Peter to give to Paul. I'm sure you've heard of that one before, but it's basically energetically you're using tomorrow's energy today. So it actually irritates the nerves, so you feel like you've got a high all through the nervous system, and you get that adrenaline boost. But then the other consideration, it removes the blood flow from the frontal lobe, which means all day long it's harder to stick to good habits, and you're more likely to go back to the quick, cheaper dopamine. But once you clean those things out of the system, for example, caffeine, it's 60 days, and the dopamine actually will come up higher, so you'll actually get a high from natural things. And then sugar, it's 3 months. So all these things have to be tailored for people, but I'm trying to give you a little bit of a rundown of the correlation between the adrenal glands and then the liver, and why these two, if you support them, so the adrenal glands, if you're supporting them with minerals and adaptogen herbs, and they're being tailored for you. Another little thing to consider is 80% of the population now in the West tend to be, and I'm one of them, a poor absorber of B vitamins. So they're called MTHFR. So they need methylated Bs, and that is also part of a big detoxification pathway in the liver. So if you do have that, we want to make sure you're using methylated Bs in your magnesium blends, or maybe you need an individual extra boost as well, depending on your symptoms. So really thinking minerals, and when I say minerals, that's magnesium and zinc, and we also want some taurine and different other vitamin C and different things that are going to, maybe some glutamine. So a nice blend there that's going to really support the gut and the minerals. Minerals are kind of like communication network to help the hormones communicate to each other. So they work very hard there. And then they have over 800 daily functions of your body. So very critical, and we don't store them. So what you have today is gone tomorrow. So here we want to make something that's easy for you to take every day and it's part of your lifestyle, so then the body can start getting those resources and starting to heal itself. So adaptogens more work as rocket fuel for the adrenal glands. So those adrenal glands can get very tired from living on them. I lived on adrenaline my teens, my 20s, right into my 30s, and I was fine until I wasn't. And then my symptoms just got louder and louder until I was like, I need to figure out what's going on. And when I started figuring it out, and now I can show you the shortcut. Back then I didn't know it, but now I know the shortcuts, I know the patterns, and we can get you there. But oh, I wish someone taught me that. And then the liver needs a high fiber diet. And when I say that, plant fibers, so think vegetables and legumes. And sometimes people go, they make me bloated, I can't handle them. I've got a strategy around that, don't worry. But for now, just trying to have very tiny doses of things that make you feel like that, and just let those bugs grow so then you can start breaking them down. And then we want to think, so fiber for the liver, we want to think some herbs to support her function, making sure we've got some proteins, amino acids, so they can be coming in with some pea protein or some collagen protein to help bind and help the liver remove them. And we want to make sure the bowels are moving beautifully. So constipation is meant to be for every intake, we're meant to have an exit like a baby does. So if that's not happening, we need to have a chat, how we can strategize around that as well, because that is solvable. And then we want to look at, with the liver, our environment, because a lot of people forget that plastic is leaching into our water, and our food might have been sprayed with a herbicide or glyphosate, and there might be seed oils. So there's a lot of things that look healthy, but there is consequences, and the liver has to deal with it. So that's why often with hormonal imbalances, it could just simply because the liver isn't able to remove things. And then I haven't even talked about medication, how that affects the liver. So obviously that's going to have to be broken down in the liver and removed. So the list is pretty long. And then some people are taking, hormone replacement therapy and stuff like that. So you would want to definitely give a lot of love to your liver. So it's just, whenever you've got a load on the body, you want to give an extra love. Like, for example, I have been doing Invisalign for several years, and I stopped cleaning my aligner in a certain way. I changed the way I cleaned it, but it wasn't as efficient. And I noticed, like, the gum here, it's all clean now, that was inflamed. There was an infection, and I was like, and I contacted my dentist, and she said, it looks like a little infection, like you'll have to come in and have it clean. And we were talking, and I thought, it's because I haven't been cleaning my aligner properly. So I made a new strategy. Now I clean it a special way. I use a little bit of an essential oil because it is so effective for killing things, and then I put a bit of salt in there and water and shake it up, and I leave it in there all day, and it smells amazing, and my gums are all healed and they're all happy. And this is the environment, right? So it's not like a negative thing, it's just feedback, and we want to take it as a blessing, an opportunity to learn to listen and to get the right advice so we can tailor an approach to help these organ systems. And why would that be important for our skin? Well, our skin is our largest organ, and it actually makes hormones as well. Did you know that? It's amazing. So our skin is very much a roadmap with our inner health, and inflammation creates aging. It actually accelerates how we age. So if we're wanting to talk about slowing down the aging process and living in a fantastic, happy body, that as we go through the changes in life, our hormones don't really mess up our enjoyment of life, because I have a lot of people, when I start working with them, their hormones are dramatically messing up their enjoyment and their productivity of life. These are all solvable things, but we have to learn and listen. And hopefully this was educational and helpful. Any questions, please just get in contact. I'm very much love helping people, and I wish you a very wonderful day. Bye for now.